5,000 Marines are now converging on the Persian Gulf from opposite sides of the planet. One group left Okinawa, the other left San Diego. They are aboard two separate amphibious assault ships, one with a well deck, one without, sailing toward the same 21-mile choke point, backed by a combined air wing of stealth fighters, attack helicopters, and tiltrotor transports. The United States has not assembled this much amphibious combat power in a single feeder since the opening of the Iraq War in 2003. And the targets this time are not cities or airfields, they are islands, some no larger than a handful of city blocks. By the end of this video, you will understand why seizing a coral outcrop the size of a small town may be the only way to reopen the most valuable shipping lane on Earth. Following this escalation, more troops, more ships, bigger footprint, that framing misses the engineering entirely. Two carrier strike groups have been bombing Iran for 3 weeks, 6,000 targets destroyed, 60 warships sunk. The Iranian Air Force is functionally extinct, and yet 700 commercial vessels remain frozen in the Persian Gulf, oil is above $100 a barrel, and not a single tanker escort has been completed. The right question is not why more Marines. The right question is, what physical capability does an amphibious force deliver that 3 weeks of carrier aviation could not? And why does it require two ships with fundamentally different designs working as a pair? Subscribe to Navy Story, because the people who build these machines and the people who operate them deserve an audience that understands how they work. Before explaining what Boxer and Tripoli can do together, you need to feel why the islands they are likely heading toward matter so much, and what Iran has turned them into. 3 clusters of islands dominate the approaches to the Strait of Hormuz. At the mouth itself sit Keshem, Hengam, and Larak, Iranian territory hugging the northern shore, positioned within 10 miles of the shipping lanes. Farther west, at the entrance to the Gulf proper, sit Abu Musa and the Greater and Lesser Tums, 3 small islands seized by Iran in 1971, still claimed by the United Arab Emirates, and fortified over decades by the IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, Iran's elite military branch. Deeper inside the Gulf, roughly 300 miles northwest of the strait, sits Karg Island, a 20-square-kilometer coral platform, about a third the size of Manhattan, handling 90% of Iran's oil exports. Karg sits just 16 miles off the Iranian mainland, connected by undersea pipelines, with deep-water jetties that can load supertankers no mainland port can accommodate. Each island cluster serves a different function in Iran's layered denial architecture. The Hormuz Islands, Keshem, Hengam, Larak, are the firing positions. Satellite imagery from this month shows US airstrikes cratering the surface of Keshem, near known IRGC tunnel entrances, but the hardened underground complex, used to store fast boats, drones, and missiles, appears to have survived. A former Iranian naval officer told Radio Farda that drone capabilities launched from these islands, not mines or warships, are the primary threat keeping shipping halted. Abu Musa and the Tums are the forward observation and missile relay posts, sitting astride the tanker approach routes with radar and anti-ship cruise missile batteries deployed as recently as March 2025. Karg is the economic jugular. Seize it or blockade it, and the regime loses the revenue that funds everything else. Each island is small enough to be taken by a reinforced battalion. Each is close enough to the Iranian mainland to be resupplied, reinforced, or bombarded by shore-based systems within minutes. And each has been fortified for exactly this contingency. Iran has rehearsed island defense drills simulating independent defense without mainland support, using the Ghadir cruise missile, a ground-launched weapon distinct from the Ghadir-class submarine, fired from mobile launchers pre-positioned in hardened shelters. The IRGC trains to fight isolated, outnumbered, and surrounded. That is what any amphibious force will face. That is what these islands were built to be. And after 3 weeks of continuous air bombardment, the tunnels on Keshem are still intact. The constraint governing this entire operation is a principle older than aviation. Air power can destroy what it sees, but it cannot hold what it hits. A 2,000-pound GBU-31 JDAM, a GPS-guided bomb built from a general-purpose warhead and a bolt-on guidance kit, detonates and the target is rubble. 24 hours later, a truck arrives with a replacement launcher. The rubble provides concealment. The cycle restarts. Strike aircraft operate in time slices. They arrive, deliver ordnance, and leave. The gap between sorties is the gap the defender exploits. Persistent presence, a force that remains on the objective, denying reoccupation around the clock, is the only way to break the cycle. That means ground troops, and ground troops on islands in the Persian Gulf mean amphibious ships. Here is the trade-off the Pentagon is now navigating. It needs two fundamentally different amphibious capabilities simultaneously, and no single ship class provides both. That is why two ships are coming from two oceans. USS Tripoli LHA-7 is the second America-class amphibious assault ship, a Flight Zero hull displacing roughly 45,000 tons, 844 feet long. Her defining feature is what she sacrificed: her well deck, the floodable stern compartment that traditional amphibious ships use to launch landing craft and amphibious vehicles into the water. Tripoli's designers removed the well deck entirely and replaced it with an enlarged hangar bay, two widened high bay maintenance areas with overhead cranes, and expanded aviation fuel storage. The result is a ship optimized for aircraft. In 2022, Marines loaded a record 16 F-35B Lightning IIs onto her deck, the short takeoff, vertical landing variant of the Joint Strike Fighter, a stealth aircraft with a radar cross-section publicly described as comparable to a golf ball. With the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit embarked, the MEU, the Marine Corps' forward-deployed Rapid Response Force from Okinawa, Tripoli carries a tailored air package of F-35Bs, MV-22B Ospreys, tiltrotor aircraft that take off vertically and fly at turboprop speeds of over 250 knots, AH-1Z Viper attack helicopters, and UH-1Y Venom utility birds. Tripoli is functionally a small aircraft carrier that happens to carry Marines. She can put steel on a target, she cannot put a tank on a beach. USS Boxer LHD-4 is the fourth WASP-class amphibious assault ship, an older design displacing about 41,000 tons, the same 844-foot length. Boxer retains what Tripoli gave up, a 266-foot-long well deck capable of flooding and launching 3 LCAC hovercraft, landing craft air cushion, high-speed transports that ride on a bubble of air at over 40 knots, and can deliver a 60-ton main battle tank from ship to shore across surf, reef, and sand. She also carries conventional landing craft. Boxer's aviation capacity is smaller than Tripoli's. Fewer F-35Bs, less fuel storage, but she can put Marines on a beach with their vehicles, artillery, and heavy equipment. With the 11th MEU embarked from Camp Pendleton, Boxer brings a complete ground combat element, an infantry battalion, reinforced with amphibious assault vehicles, light armored reconnaissance, combat engineers, and organic artillery. Tripoli provides the air dominance umbrella and precision strike. Boxer provides the forcible entry muscle and sustainment logistics. Neither ship alone can do both. Together, they form a complementary pair, the aviation-centric carrier and the assault-centric transport that covers the full spectrum of an opposed island seizure. Now walk through the operational sequence of taking one of these islands. The target that has drawn the most public speculation is Karg because of its economic significance. But Karg presents the hardest problem. It sits 16 miles from the Iranian mainland, roughly the distance from downtown Los Angeles to Long Beach, within range of every truck-mounted anti-ship cruise missile and short-range ballistic missile Iran still operates. Any force on Karg would be under continuous bombardment from the coast. Seizing it requires either suppressing the adjacent mainland, a massive open-ended commitment, or accepting daily attrition from incoming fire. The Hormuz Islands present a different calculus. Keshem is the largest, roughly the size of Long Island, with a civilian population, mountainous terrain, and deep tunnel complexes. Abu Musa is smaller, about 5 square miles, with a known IRGC garrison, anti-ship missile batteries, and radar installations, but far less depth for the defender to hide in. The Tums are smaller still. Military analysts have publicly identified Abu Musa and the Tums as the most operationally feasible targets for a seizure mission, small enough to isolate, close enough to the strait to have immediate effect on shipping security, and legally complicated for Iran to defend in international opinion since the UAE still claims sovereignty. Phase 1. Isolation. F-35Bs from Tripoli's deck, operating in low observable mode, strike known air defense positions, radar arrays, and anti-ship missile launchers on the target island. Simultaneously, Tomahawk cruise missiles, long-range, subsonic land attack weapons launched from the VLS cells of escort destroyers, hit command bunkers and communications nodes. The island is cut off from real-time coordination with mainland command. Electronic warfare aircraft, likely EA-18G Growlers operating from the Lincoln Carrier Strike Group, jam surviving radar and communications frequencies. The island goes dark. Phase 2. Suppression. H-1Z Vipers from Boxer, attack helicopters carrying AGM-114 Hellfire laser-guided missiles, and a 3-barrel 20mm cannon sweep the shoreline at low altitude, killing any mobile launcher, fast boat, or fire team that survived Phase 1. This is the close-in work that F-35Bs at 15,000 feet cannot do. The Viper's thermal imaging identifies heat signatures through foliage and camouflage. Its 20mm rounds reach targets a bomb would be wasted on. This suppression window must hold long enough for Phase 3. Phase 3. Insertion. MB-22 Ospreys from both Tripoli and Boxer lift reinforced Marine rifle companies and fly them to the objective at over 250 knots, nearly double the speed of a conventional assault helicopter. That speed compresses the vulnerability window, the time during which loaded aircraft are inbound and exposed to ground fire. Simultaneously, LCACs from Boxer's well deck launch across the water at over 40 knots, carrying vehicles, heavy weapons, and ammunition directly onto the beach. The air assault secures the high ground. The surface assault delivers the logistical mass that lets the force stay. Phase 4. Hold and expand. Marines on the ground destroy remaining IRGC positions, clear tunnel entrances with demolitions, and establish observation posts covering the shipping lanes. F-35Bs provide persistent overhead surveillance using their AN/AAQ-37 DAS, the Distributed Aperture System, a sphere of infrared sensors embedded around the aircraft's skin that sees in every direction simultaneously. Every boat, every drone, every vehicle moving on the Iranian coast opposite the island is now tracked from a position inside the strait, not from a carrier 500 miles away. The geometry inverts. The defender becomes the surveilled. Without Tripoli's F-35Bs, Phase 1 lacks the stealth strike capability to suppress air defenses without losing aircraft. Without Boxer's well deck, Phase 3 has no surface assault, no vehicles, no heavy weapons, no sustained logistics flow. Without both ships, the force either gets ashore with no air cover or arrives with air cover and no way to land heavy equipment. That is why 2 ships from 2 oceans are converging on one strait. The operation requires capabilities that were deliberately separated across 2 hull designs. Now stand where the IRGC Island Commander stands on Abu Musa. He hears the F-35Bs overhead but cannot see them on radar. His communications with the mainland are jammed. He sees Vipers on the horizon. He faces a choice. Option A, man the coastal defense positions and fight. His positions are pre-mapped by satellite imagery. Every launcher location was cataloged during 20 years of peacetime overhead surveillance. The moment he activates a radar or fires a missile, the F-35's passive sensors geolocate him and a Hellfire arrives within seconds. He shoots, he dies. Option B, go underground into the tunnels and wait. The Marines land unopposed, secure the surface, and his underground complex becomes a tomb, surrounded, cut off from resupply, with demolition charges being placed above his head. He hides, he loses the island. The 2 options collapse into the same outcome on different timelines. Here is the principle compressed to its core. A carrier air wing is a blowtorch. It burns whatever it touches but moves on. An amphibious force is a vice. It closes on the objective and does not let go. Hormuz needs both. The blowtorch alone burned for 3 weeks and the strait stayed closed. The vice is now in transit. The F-35B's sensors calculated the threat picture. The Osprey's navigation system plotted the route. The LCAC's turbines will propel 60 tons of armor across the surf, but somewhere in the berthing compartment of Boxer, a 22-year-old Lance Corporal from the 11th MEU is checking the plates in his body armor, knowing that within weeks he may step off a hovercraft onto a beach held by men who have drilled for this fight their entire careers, on an island so small that every square meter is pre-registered as a mortar target. The engineering put him within striking distance. The geography will decide what happens next. No sensor, no algorithm, no stealth coding changes the fact that taking ground requires a human being to stand on it while someone else tries to kill him for being there. 5,000 Marines, 2 amphibious assault ships, one designed around aircraft, the other around a flooded steel box that launches hovercraft. They are sailing from opposite ends of the Pacific because the most expensive air campaign since the Iraq War proved what every Marine already knew. You can crater every building on an island from 40,000 feet, and the man in the tunnel underneath will still be there when the dust settles. The only thing that removes him is another man, at ground level, with a rifle. This is Navy Story. Subscribe because the next equation is already loading. A bomb creates a crater. A Marine creates a fact on the ground. Hormuz has enough craters. What it needs now is facts.